It's another edition of the Closed Fist with Joey, Will, and myself. I'm Russ. And gentlemen, we have to send best wishes to a. Do we call him an icon? Do we call him legend icon?
Woo! Woo! Sorry, I had to.
Lord.
You're deaf.
Yeah. What? But yeah, Ric Flair apparently survived again. He survived a plane crash, being struck by lightning, and being put into a medically induced coma.
Just survived WCW.
Yeah, right.
But so we want to send our best wishes out to the champ. The only champ, really, the only 16-time champ. There's a pretender out there that says that he's a 16-time champ, but we all know who the real champ is. Yeah, we can't see him.
No.
But which brought up an interesting question: Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling.
Wow. It's a tough one, man.
It's a tough one because we've been debating this.
I think we got the top three locked down. It's that fourth one that's going to be.
Yeah.
Do we have the top three locked
Well,
down?
we kind of do.
I think Angry Grandpa over here has.
Why is it always got to be me, man? Anyway, go ahead.
But okay. I guess I'll start. I have Ric Flair. We're going to put him in there. Hulk Hogan, Bruno Sammartino, and again, like you guys. The fourth one is kind of, it's there's a bunch of guys there.
I mean, as we talked about too, it's just wrestlers, because obviously, if it was anybody involved in wrestling, you would have to put Vince on there.
Yeah.
Because he's more like DC, where all the monuments and everything are.
Right.
Because he is.
He has his own standalone monument per se, and like you said,
yeah, he's kind of like
he is the capital. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's the Lincoln Monument or whatever.
The Lincoln Memorial, yeah.
But there's a lot of those. We got a lot of guys that should be monuments, but Rushmore, I don't know. That fourth one is just escaping my grasp.
I know. I mean, your top three:
Hogan, Flair, and Bruno.
And then okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, you say that, and it's the absolute truth. There's no way around those three personally.
Yeah, you can't take away what Hogan did for the business. Yes, he's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but what he did for the business.
Biggest presence in wrestling of all time.
Same thing, Ric Flair. Ric Flair is an innovator in this business.
I mean, Ric Flair is really interesting because he was really the guy that would do like the 45 to 60 minute matches, but could also get on the mic and do promos that
one of the greatest.
That would be that would get your attention if nothing else.
Yeah.
Hogan was the promo guy,
cartoon character,
larger than life,
6'8", 300 pounds. Could at the time, I mean, early in his career, he could move very well in the ring.
Yeah,
wrestling.
And he did rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
Ice cream bars.
Oh, those are the best ice cream bars in the world.
Yes, but
hear that? Bring back the ice cream bars.
Yeah. Now I'm hungry, jerk. But
come to the Trance Music Lounge for food.
But it's interesting because you have different contrasting of styles and different eras. There, because Hogan was like the Rock, like you said, the Rock and wrestling and the promo and brother,
basically changed wrestling into more of what we know today than what it was.
Right,
coming out of the territories and all that.
Yeah, and the more the mainstream. I mean, that's when wrestling really hit mainstream.
Oh, yeah.
WrestleMania 1. Yeah.
And then and there was always that great debate of the '80s. Hogan versus Flair.
Well, that's the thing. Yep. The two polar opposites you have.
Right.
Two in their own right. They're the greatest of all time. Whatever side you fell on, in like you said, the great debate. Whatever side you fell on, you can look back at it now and have a debate for either side.
Right.
But
yeah. But so now you said that you had two.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like I said, you said that you say those three. I can't deny that.
Okay.
That I can't deny that because
you can't deny Bruno at all.
You can't deny Bruno Sammartino at all because on paper, and I'm not too well versed in it. I've seen enough, and I know the history that he was the greatest of all time.
Now the
GOAT.
The big debate with Bruno is that he was head champion for like 8 years.
Yeah.
But if you look at
Take that, Punk.
yeah. Well, now I'm glad you brought up CM Punk because CM Punk was champion for 413 days, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Actually wrestled more,
True.
defended more
True.
than Bruno. But the thing with Bruno was he was like the first guy that of his time. You know, he sold out Madison Square Garden
Every time.
Every time. He was like really the first guy that was the attraction.
Yeah.
Of pro wrestling in the 70s and 60s and whatnot.
And that's why he's secured that spot. He has to be up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Hogan took it to another level. And then Hogan and Flair took it to their own level. Now the issue that we have now is the fourth guy. Now we were debating, we were throwing names out like the Undertaker. You know, when you first say the Undertaker, you're kind of like, but then when you think about it,
He's endured through the years, and he's a huge favorite, but he didn't really do anything to change or mold the business. He was in the business, and he helped it, but it didn't change anything, if you ask me. I mean, don't get me wrong, Undertaker is one of my favorites of all time.
right?
But he didn't change the business. He was an innovator. Well, he was an innovator, but
I mean, I guess the one thing you could say that would make him a possibility for maybe a Mount Rushmore spot is
streak.
the longevity.
Yeah, the streak.
The streak, maybe not so much the streak to me anyway. Just the longevity of his character. Because if you look at it, Hogan he was the red and yellow.
yeah, he had to reinvent himself to make himself. Although the Taker did too, though. He had to switch over to the American
Badass kind of thing. But that only was there for like a couple of years.
True.
And then he went back to the Dead Man. So I mean, really, the longevity of the Undertaker character. Really, I mean, we'll never see it again. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
You'll never see that. That was the last. I mean, it wasn't the last, but it was the last gimmick character that worked and stayed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody else is their own name now. There's no more gimmicks anymore.
What about Abyss?
You know what?
I mean, he was their version of the Taker.
But he's gone now.
True.
But you know what
Was he
though?
a 5-year run at tops? You know.
But you know what though? On the independent scene, Abyss was a name. And he did, no matter what promotion he was with, hardcore wrestling fans know who Abyss is.
Oh, I know, absolutely.
Well, just like Kane, once they took the mask off of Kane, it was useless.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that he's the last of the gimmick characters.
What about Bray?
I personally, the gimmick.
You know I'm going to throw him in every episode we have.
What, his failure?
The WWE's failure in promoting what they want out of him. Wombats.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
My
clock's ticking on that. We're not going there, but
he's going to
ticking
Japan.
on
He's
that.
going to Japan.
Does Bray get to pick his shovel that
He's going to Japan, where he can actually do something.
Right. But it's interesting. You bring up guys like the Undertaker, Macho Man,
Steamboat. Like there's guys that I mean, these are the guys I think that get monuments. They don't get Rushmore.
Right.
Steamboat's not a monument. Steamboat's not a monument.
Really?
No. What did he do?
He had some amazing rivalries and matches.
You talk about guys that were innovative in the business. When you talk about Steamboat's era, how many high flyers were there?
Snuka,
the Macho Man,
and Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, I mean,
so they get the flyer Rushmore.
He was, but he had his part in developing the business, because how many people will tell you Steamboat Savage is the greatest match of all time?
One of the greatest, hands down.
Absolutely. I mean, it's my personal favorite match ever. But I'm just saying, as a whole, Ricky Steamboat had some great matches. Had some classic stuff with Ric Flair. He had some stuff with Roddy Piper. I mean, I get it, but I just don't think that he personally would be on a monument. I'm not going to sit here and hammer on Ricky Steamboat.
No, but I think Ricky Steamboat has his place in, as far as like, maybe not a monument.
Yeah.
But I think he's
a state
place.
park.
State park.
Okay, there you go. All right, I'll give him State Park.
We'll give him State Park. But it's like, who else do you bring up? And I'll bring up a name, Sting.
He is that Undertaker
Yeah.
for WCW. I mean, he switched to that Lone Wolf, the Crow.
The Crow.
I mean, and then he had that little Joker stint in TNA, which I actually kind of liked.
That was actually
kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of cool.
Yeah. But his longevity, the titles that he worked, because he's one of the few people that I believe he won the TNA title. Or
I believe so, yeah.
held. So I mean, he's one of those people that has held titles in multiple organizations, and been at the forefront for 25, 30 years in the business. Going back
in
to
the business, I was going to say in the forefront because he was like not a blip on the radar because I mean he was so big in WCW, but if you don't know TNA, if you didn't watch TNA, he was gone for 15 years.
Yeah,
true.
If you don't know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just I'm nitpicking, I guess.
He
But
had those awesome acting career that he had.
no worse than Hulk Hogan's.
At least Hogan did like action movies. Sting did like love movies.
Don't make
So he's off Rushmore then. He's done.
Right.
He's done. Right?
He's a monument.
But he's a mind. Okay.
He has to have a monument. I mean, there's so many names in wrestling that get monuments. But again, finding that fourth, do you say Andre? Do you say...
There we go.
Now there's a guy.
There we go. I always forget it. Andre the Giant. He changed wrestling.
I'm still pushing for the Brooklyn Brawler.
He really did, Steve Lombardi. Well, that's when we get to the Jobber Monument.
I think he was such a jobber. He belongs on the regular
When
monument.
we get to the Jobber Monument, man, he's heads and shoulders above almost everybody else, and I got a long list of those.
You got way more than I do, that's for sure.
Yeah, I got a long list of that.
I loved Andre, but I think when Andre,
He was just a monster.
he was a monster, and I guess is maybe Mount Rushmore for drinking beer. He has
the
record.
cans left over.
But okay. What was the largest crowd? I mean, maybe not anymore. I don't know the facts anymore. But the largest crowd in professional wrestling history.
Yep.
Was it WrestleMania 3?
Was WrestleMania 3. He was the headliner when
Hogan was the headliner.
But his heel turn changed everything.
Yeah.
He made nobody did until Hogan switched.
And wasn't he the big machine too?
Yeah, it's one of the super
giant
machines.
machine. Yeah.
But when he switched, everybody, I remember being like, watching that Piper's Pit, going,
ripped the
oh my
chain
God,
off Hogan, yeah.
going like, oh my God, is this really happening right now? Is this seriously happening? He's just turned on Hulk Hogan. That is a moment.
That was that Godfather moment that I knew it was you, Fredo. I knew it was you. That's what it was, though. It really was.
Yeah.
That's why I would, seriously consider putting him up there, man.
Okay, now we brought up like legends from the past. Anybody from say like the Attitude Era? Who'd you have? You had The Rock. You had Stone Cold. You had Triple
Again, I think those are monuments.
H. Yeah.
I mean, granted, The Rock was one of the biggest. Stone Cold's one of the biggest. I mean, Stone Cold was that first guy to really not be a face or a heel. He was that.
Stone Cold's run wasn't long enough.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't. He was that first guy to innovate, not being a face or a heel. He just kind of fell in the middle.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels.
We talked about that.
Showstopper.
I wouldn't say no, but he is kind of like Bret Hart with me on there. Like, you could make a case for him, for sure. You could make a case for either one, but he didn't move the needle in the business. Like, he sustained it. He kept WWE going. Those two kept WWE going.
When Hogan left.
Yeah.
But he didn't push the envelope. The Rock and Stone Cold took over and kept
until we had
it going.
DX form, really. I mean, Shawn Michaels kind of fell off at that point.
Yeah, but at that point.
And that's what he needed.
Yeah.
Well, you just brought up a name, Bret Hart. I mean, there's a guy that.
But he didn't help the company, though. Sorry, go ahead.
You don't think he helped the company?
I think he kept it afloat.
I think, I don't know about that. I think what he did was he was such a contrast to what Hogan was. I mean, if you look at like we'll call it the Michaels and Hart era.
Yeah.
I mean, because
the low point of WWE.
It's because they didn't have the talent.
Well, you bring up the low point of the WWE, but if you think about it, their style was so 180.
It was the antithesis of
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, the rock and wrestling. It was
Exactly.
completely the opposite of rock and wrestling.
Exactly.
It wasn't the biggest guys in the room wrestling and the big moves and the over the top. It was two wrestlers just letting it all go.
And you know what? And I think that it was a good thing to do a 180. And that they didn't just pick another Hulk Hogan type like a Lex Luger. You know,
Which they tried to push.
Which they tried to push later on.
He was the Roman Reigns of the 1990s.
You know what? I'm glad
That
you said
explains
that.
why I was never a fan.
But it's like, you know, it was such a contrast, but also brought wrestling back to the forefront of what the business was.
It took a little bit of the show away from it and made it more of a sport.
Well, not sport, but you know, showed more skill.
Yes.
In what they were doing. So I mean, so you have those guys. I mean, after that, you kind of, you know, now hardcore WWE fans will say John Cena.
No.
Well, his time as the
now.
champion is the low point. But
I don't know about-
you
Not a low point, but I
you
just-
can't deny the money they make. I mean, but there's nobody else now. You can't call his point the low point because there's no other competition.
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say a low point.
No, we're
but
saying for the
for the fourth guy.
The Mount Rushmore. I thought we were okay.
No, but it's like, you know, I mean,
What did he do to change anything? You know, he basically buried the Attitude Era. I don't
He
know,
did what
you know.
they told him to do.
Well,
and
no,
that's about
Vince
it, you know.
buried it. Vince didn't want to do it, but
right. But you have a guy like that who's sitting there, Randy Orton.
It's Will's
Stop.
favorite.
Randy Orton. Yeah. All the desecration of monuments going on in America right now. That's one I would destroy if you tried to make a Randy Orton one.
Now we're getting political.
No, that's all I gotta say.
We're gonna have protesters next.
Yeah.
But you know, but that fourth guy is
It's tough.
It's tough, man.
It's tough.
There's a lot of guys that are like that close.
Yeah.
I think it should be Coco Beware,
Yeah.
the Birdman.
I'm okay with it.
Screw it.
I'm okay with it.
He's the first guy to bring a parrot to the ring.
What was his bird's name?
What was it?
I know.
I used to know it.
Frankie.
Frankie, that's
good
right.
Call. Good call.
I'm a loser. Yes.
It's all good, man. I knew it too, so it's all good. All good.
Although we did have Matilda for a little bit there too.
But
The Bulldog.
yeah.
There's one. Now that would be a tag team. Because we've had other discussions about
Tag
this
team
too, about
Rushmore.
tag team Rushmore, faction Rushmore, and obviously the jobber Rushmore.
You know, I mean, you could have guys that on more than one. You know, I mean, Ric Flair. He wasn't huge in the tag team scene, but
The faction, I mean, the Four Horsemen at one time ran shit.
you know,
Stuff.
but Shawn Michaels was part of one of the better tag teams of the '80s, the Rockers. With Marty Jannetty.
They would not be on a Rushmore. That's for
The
sure.
best thing they ever did was put him through the window.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember anything
barbershop.
significant that those two did other than him putting him through the window at the
That
barbershop.
feud was probably their best work that they've had.
I thought they were a poor man's version of the Rock and Roll Express, and I don't
Yes.
even like the Rock and Roll Express. Personal opinion.
Nah, I agree with that. Would you put somebody like Jake the Snake on?
You know
On
what?
what?
That's an interesting.
Rushmore.
That is an interesting name to bring up because he was innovative with his promos. If you think about it, I mean, we talk about guys that were innovative in the business and took the business to another level. If you look at Jake Roberts, he brought that mysterious and that dark promo to the forefront better than anybody.
Agreed, absolutely. But then, see, you would take what I would then you look at it that way, and you would take that, and then you would take the spectacle and the over-the-top style and whatever of like a Hulk Hogan. I'm not saying what he did, but that spectacle part of it, and you take the Jake Roberts and you put them together, and what do you have?
Probably the greatest promo guy of all time.
Well, no, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
You take the two. So why would the Undertaker not be? But we're saying, is he on there
he was
or
a
not?
predecessor.
You know,
I mean, I would say,
Or would you put somebody like Mick Foley?
Ooh. Ooh, now there's
And yes, he's been a bunch of different characters, but at the end of the day, what he did for wrestling,
Hardcore legend.
exactly.
legend.
Or would you come up with
Terry Funk.
Terry Funk?
I wouldn't. put
I'd
Terry
stick
Funk up
more
there. I'd throw him
towards
out, but I'd
You
throw
know
him out.
what?
Mick Foley.
Terry Funk at the age of 72 or something like that, 75. He's wrestling again.
True story.
Just letting you know, the man, the man's gonna wrestle.
It might
till
be
he's like
thumb
90.
wrestling, but still.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. I mean, as far as you talk about a guy that was, what, NWA, WCW, WWF, ECW,
WWE.
I mean, just a guy that
Gave it all.
transcended time. He was.
That's what he did. Is time. It's the length of. But again, he hasn't done any. I mean, I don't really follow Texas wrestling, so I really don't. You know, I mean, I don't know if he's been doing shows down there or whatever, but he's gone for a long time. That's for sure. He's been.
Well, he's been gone because he's you know, what is he going to do? He has no
Hobble
means,
around, yeah.
You know, but there's a guy that, again, it's kind of like, I don't want to say a poor man's Ric Flair, but it's like he's another Ric Flair type of guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's done it all, been everywhere, even wrestled in Japan.
Yeah,
I mean, just
wasn't that some of his biggest stuff?
Yeah.
Him and Mick Foley in Japan.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
think I'm gonna lock in Mick Foley with me.
you're gonna lock in Mick Foley, okay? Easy as his fourth. What about you?
I'm
mean,
still up in the air about it. It's too high. I really have to think about it because I mean, I have my favorites,
Right.
you know, but it's tough.
But I think for me, Mick Foley, just because he brought that hardcore right to the forefront, coming off getting thrown off Hell in the Cell, getting hit with a chair by 97 times by The Rock on Thanksgiving, or Super Bowl.
I can't deny that. You're
I
absolutely
think that might
correct.
be the guy.
I just am like, was hardcore wrestling? Did hardcore wrestling go on long enough?
Well, if you think
For it
about
to
it,
be-
But think about all the dark matches, the tack matches, the barbed wire.
Oh, yeah.
The explosives. I mean, we didn't get to see a lot of that on television, but you know, hardcore fans found the magazines, they found the videotapes, they found a way to watch that.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You know, and that was just a whole other form of wrestling that
It's
was
not
out
here
there
anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, you talk about
Because everything's PC.
Yeah, but you talk about ECW. They lasted for a good
10 years.
10 years, 12 years. I mean, so they were. I mean, the ECW wasn't around all that long, but they made their mark.
They did.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
sure.
They definitely made their mark. And when you look at some of the talent that came through there, Chris Jericho
Yeah.
came through there. Sabu
Yeah.
came through there. Shane Douglas had his stint in there and really was one of the better wrestlers that they've ever had, along with
The one guy who got buried more than anybody.
I
in
know.
WWE.
Oh my God! You
yeah.
talk about
He got buried.
and I think he gets
And that was all Triple H. Well, those guys, Shawn Michaels and Triple H and all those guys. But
Yeah,
another story.
I think you get to pick his shovel,
Yeah.
but or whatever. But you know, you bring up guys like him. Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys that are like, there's different levels. You know, you have the Monument, you have the State Park level, you have,
They're like the Disney World, though.
yeah.
They're the fun one, you know.
They're the fun
They're the
ones.
fun one.
yeah, this is such a tough question because I mean I have my favorites and I keep wanting to say the Macho Man Randy Savage, but that's my favorite wrestler of all time. And what did he do
To change.
to move the needle and change the business?
He was one
Not
of the
much.
superpowers.
Yeah. Well,
But you know what though? I mean, if you look at the Macho Man again, and for his time and his era, he was really other than Jimmy Snuka at the time. Really, nobody came off the top rope. Nobody did at the high risk maneuvers that we see now. I mean, if you honestly look at it, Snuka, Steamboat, Savage, those were your high spot guys.
Oh yeah.
And
Of the 80s.
that's what I was just gonna say. The casual fan still cuts his promos
All day.
Exactly.
Everybody still does.
Exactly.
I blame Slim Jim for that.
You so want to do it, don't you? You so want to do it,
Dude,
don't you?
but I
You
can't-
so
I
want to
can't.
do it.
I-
Yes, you can.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can.
All right, the Macho Man is my fourth.
I'm gonna go Sting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Sting because of his longevity, and you know what? The way he transformed his character.
Yeah.
You know, and not only transformed it well to the point of where kids were dressing up like him during Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, the Crow.
Or was it Brandon Lee?
Or was it Brandon Lee? He's still alive. But, you know,
Hey, he just made the Bruce Lee movie.
There you go.
For the WWE.
But you know what? I mean, I mean, the fourth guy can definitely be up for debate. We have our monuments in the Undertaker and maybe even the Ultimate Warrior for the short stint that he had.
He gets a monument.
I think he
Might not be a huge monument.
I think he would get some sort of a monument simply because fans were drawn to him.
And he was different. He was very different.
He was. I don't know what he was on.
Everything.
No denying that. It's,
But
you know,
yeah, he was just.
Not gonna lie, as a kid, he was one of my
terrible
favorites.
hand in the ring, but it was, you know.
Yeah, but as far as his character and everything,
Yeah, he was one of my favorites growing up. I mean,
Definitely.
looking back at it now, he was not the greatest wrestler ever, exactly, but he was still one of those guys that just grabbed you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got pumped on Saturday morning watching that dude run into the ring. You're like, oh my god, his music hits.
Yeah.
It's like you get pumped up. It was
One of the greatest moments I had was at the old Odd, watching him come out, run around the ring for 10 seconds, body slamming Andre the Giant in 4 seconds, and running out the ring. I was like, I waited all night for a 4-second match.
The shortest matches of all time, but probably the most entertaining short matches of all time.
Yes.
Think about it. So
Just watching all that fringe and streamers run everywhere was great. Neon streamers everywhere.
so that's our Mount. So that's our Mount Rushmores. Are we happy?
Yeah.
The grumpy old man is happy.
Yeah. And it's mine. It's my pick, and I'm still because I just enjoy debate. I guess it's but anyway.
He's a master debater, guys.
Are you trying to bait me?
Maybe.
Incorrigible, both of you.
Woo!